48 hours ago, the most expensive layer of AI, not the chatbot, but the thing that actually writes and ships your code, got violently cheaper. One model dropped 80% overnight. Its CEO called it major price cuts. And the whole industry is watching, not because of the company that cut the price, but because of the company they were reacting to. That company has spent 2 years as the cheap, open-weight challenger everyone kept underestimating, and it just flipped the switch on its official general release model. On paper, it's a Flash. Small, fast, cheap. The benchmarks tell a louder story. Because here's the thing about these agent benchmarks. They're not chatbot scores. They measure whether a model can actually finish a job, fix a repo, run a terminal, survive a session that runs for an hour without losing the thread. That's the frontier everyone is racing toward. And the underdog just posted numbers that, on paper, beat the preview version of its own flagship. This is DeepSeek V4-Flash-0731. Official release, July 31st, 2026. Open to everyone through the DeepSeek API in public beta. 284 billion parameters total, 13 billion active. A 1 million token context window. And it's been repost-trained with a single obsession: agents. DeepSeek internally bills this as the agentic release, and it lands smack in the middle of a price war that, to be fair, its own earlier models helped start. To understand why this matters, rewind. DeepSeek has long been the budget open weights disruptor. V3, back in 2024, shocked everyone with near-frontier performance at a fraction of the cost. Then R1, the reasoning model that went genuinely viral in 2025. V3.1, then V3.2, each iteration cheaper and more efficient than the last, riding alongside a whole ecosystem of Chinese open models like Qwen that settled into good enough at a tenth of the price territory. The pattern was always the same. DeepSeek undercuts, the giants hold their margins, the pressure builds, and eventually someone cuts. That's exactly the cycle this V4 Flash release is dropping into. Notice the naming too. V4 ships in 2 flavors, Pro and Flash. Pro is the big one, roughly 1.6 trillion parameters total, about 49 billion active, positioned as a rival to the world's best closed models. Flash is the lean sibling, the fast and cheap one. This release is Flash's moment to step out of the preview shadow and go fully official. Meanwhile, the old legacy model names, DeepSeek Chat and DeepSeek Reasoner, officially retired back in July, folded into the V4 lineup. The whole line is consolidating around V4. So the tech. It's a mixture of experts model. DeepSeek routes every token through a sliver of the network. 13 billion active out of 284. That sparsity is why it's fast and cheap to serve. But the real story is what the repost training targeted. Not raw IQ, not general knowledge. Agents. Long, multi-step tasks where a model has to plan, call tools, read files, edit code, and just keep going. And here's the tell. DeepSeek natively supports the Responses API and is specially tuned for Codex, the open-source coding agent. One config works across the Codex CLI, the ChatGPT desktop app, and the IDE extension. It also plugs into Claude Code and OpenCode. In other words, DeepSeek is publicly courting agent workflows, the exact places where token burn is brutal and where their pricing crushes the field. Max output tops out at a huge 384,000 tokens, built for long agent sessions. The 1 million token context is the enabler. 1 million tokens is roughly a very large codebase, or dozens of files, held in memory in a single session. For an agent that has to read a repo, edit several files, run tests, fix failures, then loop, that's the difference between finishing a task and dropping the thread halfway through. Combined with the sparse attention, DeepSeek can serve that whole window without the memory bill exploding. Long context, cheap. That combination is the whole architectural bet. There's also a mode switch baked in. Flash supports both thinking and non-thinking modes. You pick per request whether it should reason deeply or answer instantly. matching the price point to the difficulty instead of paying flagship rates for trivial calls. It's the same cost-tiering logic the big closed labs push, except here it starts from a much lower floor. The numbers are the headline, and DeepSeek says they far exceed their own V4 Pro preview. On agent benchmarks, Terminal Bench 2.1, 82.7, NL2 Repo, 54.2, turning a plain language prompt into a working repo. Cybergym, 76.7, DeepSWE, 54.4, Toolathlon Verified, 70.3, Agent Last Exam, 25.2, Automation Bench Public, 25.1. And on their internal sets, DS Bench Full Stack, 68.7, and DS Bench Hard, 59.6. Now the part that matters in a price war. V4-Flash costs 14 cents per million input tokens on a cache miss, 28 cents per million output. On a cache hit, it collapses to basically pennies, 0.0028. To put that against OpenAI's freshly cut prices, GPT 5.6 Luna is now 20 cents in and $1.20 out after that 80% drop. V4-Flash sits below even that, on a model explicitly built for agents. A fair caution before those numbers do all the talking. Every one of these benchmark figures is DeepSeek's own, run on their own harness at their chosen settings. The two DS Bench scores, Full Stack and Hard, come from internal test sets that nobody outside the lab can verify. Take them as directional, not gospel. Independent replication is the part that's still outstanding. July 30th. OpenAI announces major price cuts. Sam Altman's own words. Luna, 80% cheaper. Terra, 20%. GPT 5.6 Sol gets a fast mode. One day later, DeepSeek formally launches its agent-tuned Flash model at prices that undercut those brand new OpenAI prices. That's not coincidence. That's a price war firing on both barrels. And it's open weights against closed. The whole V4 collection is open sourced on Hugging Face, tech report included. You can self-host, audit, fine-tune. OpenAI is a closed API. The efficiency race has turned into a transparency race, and DeepSeek is betting that open, cheap, and good enough on agents wins the developers. Zoom out on the economics, because that's the real story. Agent workloads are token hogs. A single coding task can burn hundreds of thousands of tokens across a planning loop. At flagship pricing, that makes agents expensive to run at scale. Cheap per token models change the math entirely. You can afford to let an agent loop longer, fail, retry, and still stay inside budget. That's not a feature bullet. That's what unlocks agents as a default workflow instead of a luxury. DeepSeek is positioning Flash as the engine for that whole shift. Honest take. The pros? Genuinely strong agent benchmarks. Prices that undercut a market that was just undercut. Native Responses API and Codex support. A 1 million token window and real open weights. For anyone building agents, this is a serious option. The cons, and they're real. These numbers are DeepSeek's own, run on their own harness. Independent replication is still pending. The internal sets, DS Bench Full Stack and Hard, are sets nobody else can verify. It's a Flash model, so 13 billion active is small. General knowledge and deep reasoning still trail the bigger pro tier. And DeepSeek is about to add peak hour pricing that doubles rates during business hours, which chips away at the always cheap promise. The official V4 Pro release is still coming, and that's where the real intelligence ceiling lives. Here's what to watch next. If you build agents, put V4-Flash up against your token bill and see what breaks. And subscribe. I'll be here the day V4 Pro lands. See you in the next one.